The Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a direct result of the Indochina War because in 1968, the North Vietnam launched a massive surprise attack on South Vietnam and America. They did that because the South Vietnam and America rejected the request for a little bit of fortune. The North Vietnam was furious with America and South Vietnam because they needed fortune for their country. Moscow and Beijing assisted North Vietnam to launch the surprise attack on South Vietnam and America. Also, when the Chinese heard about it, they gave some supplies to the North Vietnam. However, it wasn't any simple supply. It was the supply that Hitler left for the Chinese. It was tanks, guns, melee weapons, and missiles. The general that led the Americans was William C. Westmoreland. The British and the French assisted the U.S. in the Vietnam War by giving us troops, guns, tanks, and missiles. The British and French were against the fact that they were mad because the Americans in the South rejected the offer. The Americans appreciated all the support from the French that they gave the French $1.1 billion to aid and help France during the war against communism in Indochina. Americans trained for 4 weeks non-stop. They tried different strategies like attacking by coast, the airlines, and by water. During the Vietnam War, many troops of France, America, and South Vietnam got wounded, 30,000 people got injured, and 15,000 died during the war. The Americans were trying to get the North Vietnam scared and worried by destroying many parts of their country. The U.S. and the South Vietnam's troops were getting ready for the rough battle, the tough, bloody, and long Battle of Khe Sanh.
The Battle of Khe Sanh began on January 21, 1968, when forces from the People's Army of North Vietnam carried out a massive artillery bombardment on the U.S. The NVA, or North Vietnamese Army, launched their attack at Lang Vai on February 6, 1968. They had lost almost all of the air power and had to rely only on helicopters. For a short time, it looked like the North Vietnamese were going to win the battle, but surprisingly, America claimed victory because they had held a base against the NVA. It was a costly battle for both sides. The Battle of Hue was one of the longest and bloodiest battles of the Vietnam War. The Battle of Hue left 100,000 Vietnamese people homeless, 5,000 civilians dead, 8,000 communists died, 3,707 were wounded, and 668 dead allies. Another war was the Battle of Saigon. The U.S. had won troop-wise, but if you look at what the goal of the U.S. was, which was to try to stop the war and end it, they lost. While North Vietnam won their goal, which was to reunite and gain independence, but lost as in troop-wise. After several battles and losses, North Vietnam realized that they were repeatedly losing, and 90% of the losses for the Vietnamese were due to the fact of air artillery and bombardment. They were losing a lot of men too. Many leaders saw this and started to get discouraged and were not guarding the Vietnamese army well. Due to the loss of wars and loss of leadership, America had basically won the war by now. The North Vietnamese surrendered and America won.